Good morning, folks. It's December 17th, 2:52 a.m. I napped yesterday while my phone was being updated. I've got a new phone. This is my fourth Samsung S22 Ultra. And I'm pissed off. You would think I'd be happy. Well, I'm happy that I got a new phone, but it's December. I bought this phone back in February when it first came out. And every one of them has been defective. But listen, I'm crossing my fingers because this one might be okay. I'm not happy with T-Mobile. I'm certainly not happy with Samsung. They ping-pong me back and forth. They do not work well together. They remind me of my own parents. And one of the things I hated was when one of them sent me to the other one and they didn't resolve things. It was really kind of a nightmare of a family for me. I'll be honest with you. Yes, I'm a retired psychologist and I'm an old man, and you might not want to tune into me. You might think, what the hell does this old guy have telling me what to do? Well, I just might have the key to your life, by the way. Not that I'm got the power, but I can point you in the right direction. That I believe. That I believe is my purpose, by the way. So you need to understand something. The United States of America has been scheduled to be destroyed. Now, that came from the other side, the bad side. They decided to take down the United States of America. However, I can't say that with really good certainty, because God himself may have decided to take America down. I've got two channels. This one's after my own name, and I started it the soonest a long time ago and just never used it. My other channel is Awakening Israel. On it, I try to talk from the Bible, and I try to keep religious things separate from reality. Can you believe that? How preposterous does that sound when I say it? Makes me laugh in a nervous way. Well, the fact is, America is under attack, and so much is going on right now that I can't keep up with it. I don't think anybody can. The evil that has been unleashed upon America is just absolutely horrible. And the evil that Americans have brought upon themselves, that's the problem. Is there a way out of this? Yes, yes. And as a matter of fact, the only product I have to offer you, the only thing I have to sell, the only wares I have to hawk, to boast about, is a new version of the Bible, which is the best version of the Bible yet. Now, what happens when you read the Bible? A lot. I don't think that I was educated until I read the Bible, and I didn't even sit down and read it till I was quite old. And I'm an older man yet now. I still sit down to read it. I still don't know it well enough. And I'll tell you, these days it scares me pretty much because I'm not reading between the lines much anymore. I'm reading the lines. And the lines spell out perfectly to me that the United States of America is going to be burned from one end to the other end. It's going to be nuked. You need to understand that. You need to hear this. Can you stop it? I don't know. I think so. Is it worth the effort? Is it worth trying? What do you think? I mean, when I look at these beautiful pictures of these beautiful animals in parts of the world that I will never visit, it's just wild. So beautiful. I hate to see it destroyed. But the bad guys decided to take down the United States of America. They announced it about a decade ago at the Bilderberg conference. Alex Jones reported on it. I don't know what to make of Alex. The Bronfman family funded his doggone studio. And as far as I can tell, they're not nice people. Kind of like the Soros family. Those aren't nice people either. And the Rockefellers, they aren't nice people. You may think they're philanthropists. You may think they're good guys. And my God, look at the good they do. Well, they learn their lesson. They run the best campaign, PR campaign programs on the planet. They have the best in public relations. Matter of fact, they invented public relations. They had to hide their tracks so that they could persist and exist today. And so by tolerating the evil and coexisting, you're being brought down. Now, what can you do about it? Well, first thing I want to do is direct you to my Bible. It's called the Proper Name Version of the King James Bible. It is the original King James Bible, corrected modern English. What makes it a better Bible? Well, the most important aspect of it, it's got the proper name of Yahweh, Creator, Father, God in it. It also has the proper name of Yahshua. And it also refers to him as the Messiah and to the Christ. Those somehow equivocate. They're equal, equivalent supposedly. I'm looking into that. I'm still discovering a lot myself. If you read the Bible carefully, you will realize that it refers to a lot of events which have not happened yet. They haven't taken place. And it refers to a lot of events that you're going to look at and say, man, that never happened. That's impossible. That couldn't take place. Like the day when Joshua and his men fought all day long, and Creator Father, Yahweh, kept the sun up in the air. So it was a long day. You might think that's impossible. Well, it actually really did happen. As far as I can tell, it really happened, and it probably has to do with the Earth's cycles, which we're still living in, by the way. We're still on the Earth, and we're still going through cycles. And a lot of this stuff lines up with Eastern philosophy, Eastern religions. It lines up with the tales of other cultures. It's just marvelous how they can contribute to the understanding of the whole thing. Yes, I want you to go buy my Bible, published by name publishers. I'm going to put a link up for it here in the description of the video. Follow that link, and there's a drop-down box on the page, and I think there's 5 different formats you can get. I happen to have just the large print format in the brown leatherette copy. I don't have tabs. I don't know if tabs are available in that. I think they are. You can get it in black leatherette, and I believe you can get it with tabs. And of course, it costs more with the tabs. When I bought mine, the brown leatherette version, which I paid full price for, was on sale. It was a special, so go with the special. Then there's the standard. Oh, by the way, that's 14 print. Pretty big print. And there's a standard print that I believe is, I think it's 12-point print instead of 14-point. Maybe it's 11. But it's pretty good. And it's just a slightly smaller. I found out recently that the large print Bible, that version came about at my request. And I will tell you that it's beautiful. It really is. Plenty of room to write. It's a big Bible. And the competitors will take their leather-bound Bibles, and they will sell them for way over $100. And the last I checked, mine are under $50. And you're not going to get a cheaper price than what you get when you follow the link. Yes, I get a credit for that. It helps me out. The publisher's done me that favor. I visited that area and him and the people there in that little study group, that church there, many times. And, oh, I love it there. A wonderful group. Learned so much. Buy my Bible. Give it to each other. Get it now. Get in your orders now. I want to sell 1 million of them. Why is that? Well, for one, it would make me a very wealthy man, and I'm in pretty humble digs, as you might be able to tell. I'm in a motorhome. It's an old motorhome. Very nice one. Small one. Perfect for going to national parks. I'd like something a little bit bigger because I need to be more functional. Boy, I'd like to keep this and get the other one. And I also would like to get some property sometime. But okay, how's that for an introduction? I'm known as Dr. John Taylor Kent. Why am I called doctor? I earned my doctorate, my PhD, my doctorate of philosophy and psychology. And in particular, I subspecialized prematurely in neuropsychology, and then in industrial organizational psychology, and then in basically family systems. I thought I wanted to specialize. I was advised, you want to specialize so you can survive and do things, get a better income, because the field, at that point, a lot of women had entered the field, and the salaries, because there were so many people in the field, the salaries were basically cut in half of what was standard. It was a matter of supply and demand. There were a few other things that happened in the background on that too. For one thing, psychology was the crown of sciences until we handed it over to this psychiatry, which I rather do not like very much. I kind of loathe psychiatry because they're so limited in their training. At the time I was going through school, they were getting one course in psychology, and that made them able to rule the roost, and very poorly at that. And so they also emptied the asylums out at about the same time in our nation, and so there were no longer safe institutions. The safety varied from state to state, that's for sure. But they mainstreamed psychiatric medications, which are basically chemical straitjackets, if you will. And it's like, as one of my teachers in psychology says, it's like trying to kill a gnat with a sledgehammer. That's a hell of an analogy. And the sad thing is that that's kind of what they do with those drugs, is they work based upon principles of toxicity and disabling. So if you're taking those, they're going to downregulate you, downgrade you, and they are going to shorten your life. They cause neuronal shrinkage, a neuroleptic. It means a preening of the hairs, the little hairs that's on the cell body. It preens those off. And when you look at the neuron after somebody's been on neuroleptics for quite a while, maybe 5 years, or just a little bit of their life even, it looks like a damn sewer pipe in the long run, because there's no more of these fine connections. So it destroys the brain. It destroys the connections. It also, these things are touted as, well, you've got a chemical imbalance. I got news for you. It causes the chemical imbalance. So it leads to it. And you're going to say, well, I'm not supposed to be depressed. I'm not supposed to be anxious. Yes, you are. You're a human being, and you're supposed to be subject to all of those conditions. That's just the way it is. That's our lot in life. We are a suffering lot. And you may think that, rich people don't suffer, but the example I like to give the inmates when they were wanting me to be suicidal was, there's a woman in Scottsdale. She's going to go before her group. She's going to give her the annual message, the presentation, and she's got to get up there in front of everybody, and she's worked hard all year for this fundraiser she's been doing. This is her purpose in life. And she just broke a nail. She broke a fingernail. And she's devastated by this, because she's got to get up there in front of everybody, in front of all of her friends, all of these other women and men, especially the women, and they're going to see her broken fingernail. And that's all they're going to talk about, is she had a broken fingernail. They're not going to talk about the good work she's done. They're not going to talk about the good work she's trying to accomplish. And so she wants to kill herself. It's pretty absurd sounding. But she's that embarrassed. Okay, it's a broken nail. You know, get over it. It'll grow back. It's going to be embarrassing. Well, the most important thing I can tell you is to hang with it, to be curious about the future. I know that the suicide rate's quite high these days. It's gone up. It's gone up purposely. It's been inflicted. It's part of their big plans, taking this nation down. And it's been increasing at such a phenomenal rate that I don't think that people in the field can keep up with it. I know that before all of this messy stuff happened, before 2000, we had a steady state of suicides. And it was a modest rate, and I know that suicide across the whole planet remained constant. It was constant. It just varied in location. It varied according to sufferings in location. Well, remember what I told you? The United States of America has been slated for extermination. And you don't want to believe me. Well, you're being played. I've been played. It's hard to get out and above the prevailing brainwashing. I know. It was hard for me. And I still have a lot to learn, a lot to overcome. I know I'm an old man. I know that it's getting harder as I get older. I've stayed as flexible as I can. I recently discovered things about myself and my own family that I never thought were possible. My family would never do that. My family's too small to have all those problems. And I had somebody who, she didn't really hand me my ass, but she handed me my whole family so I could understand it and have a better understanding of myself. And it really shook me up. I'm grateful for it. But I don't really have the money to go doing expensive therapy anymore. And not only that, I don't think I really have much more tolerance for it, because I know from my studies that as one gets older, it gets harder to change. Things become more difficult. And I'm an old man. I'm not just past my prime. I'm an old man. That's all there is to it, and that's not going to change. Well, it will be changing it someday. I'll be dying like everybody else does. But let's talk about you. You're living in a society that's been targeted, and we can say by the bad guys. But if we read the Bible carefully, you'll realize it's Yahweh doing this to us. And then if we read it carefully enough, you realize that the real locus of control, the real power, the real blame, the absolute responsibility, maybe not all the blame, because there are really evil ones on the earth. The devil is here, and he has his children. But if we look at it long enough, we realize that a way has been prepared for us out of this mess. Now, in the Bible, it's in Jeremiah, it talks about an exodus out of all the countries from the north back to the promised land. An exodus so big that the exodus out of Egypt will never be mentioned again. That hasn't happened yet. I know that people are going to say, well, look at the exodus out of Russia. The Jews from Russia going down south to Israel. Yes, that happened. But that's not Israel for the most part. And that's not the only country Israelites have been driven to. And you need to understand the United States of America was founded by Israelites, real Israelites, men and women descended of the man Israel. And I know You're going to say, well, look at you. You're white, pasty. You're a white guy. You aren't Middle Eastern. You're not tanned up. You aren't dark. You aren't whatever color you want to call it. You aren't gray. You aren't black. You aren't brown. You aren't whatever mix there is going on. And that's right. And I know you're going to argue with me. But I'll ask you a question right now. Let's talk about the elephant in the china closet, the bull in the china closet. Why do you think we are called Caucasians? Pray tell, as my mother would say. Do you know why you're called Caucasian? Do you know why I'm referred to as Caucasian? We were named after the Caucasus mountain range. They don't want you to know this truth. Why don't they want you to know this truth? Because then you're going to ask the question, my God, where did we come from before we crossed the Caucasus? And that's what they want to hide from you. Why? Because they pulled off the biggest identity theft in history. That's right. They stole in your heritage and my heritage. There's only one way to get it back. That's right. Go buy one of my Bibles and read it. It's the best version of the Bible available today in English, modern English. It is superior to the original King James Bible. What did we do? What did they do? What did the committee do to come up with this Bible? Those people that crafted this translation. They corrected the errors in the Bible. What was the error? The error was a big error. It was major. Ptolemy II, in about 275 BC, before Christ, was translating the Bible. Why? Because almost all of the Israelites were in dispersion, and the world had been Hellenized, meaning the Greek culture, Greek language was dominant in the world. Almost all of the Israelites had become Greek speakers at that point. And so a Hebrew Bible wasn't nearly useful for them. Greek was useful. That was the language of the day. So Ptolemy II, in approximately 275 BC, it took him a while to translate the Bible, produced the Septuagint. The Septuagint was the Greek version of the Bible. And he took out the proper name of Yahweh. He removed it. The Tetragrammaton, YHVH. And remember, in Paleo Hebrew, there were no vowels. Those you had to know from context as a party of the culture, as a member of the culture. You had to know what that was. Now, if you read the Bible carefully, you will realize that there's going to be 144,000 sealed in the future. And it's an important thing is they all know the name of Yahweh. That's what's written in the Bible. So if you really want to be one of the elite in heaven, if you will, if you really want to worship Yahweh, the Lord, Creator, Father, you better know His name. Don't you think that might be a good idea? Yes, it's a good idea. The exodus out of the north hasn't happened yet. And you folks haven't woken up enough yet. And so more of you are going to have to die. And that's all there is to it. And that's what we deserve as a nation at this point. By God, we're worse than Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighbors. It says that right in the Bible. And I remember as a little boy, a long time ago, since I was 7 years of age, But I heard that God promised he wouldn't destroy the earth with the flood again, but by fire. And that's what I'm reading in the Bible. How do you think God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah? Hellfire and brimstone. If we get a proper translation of the Bible, I hate to say that, because I think I've got the best that we have to date, but a man named Rex Tibosaurus actually did a series of videos on this a decade ago about the nuclear war written in the Bible 2,500 years ago. Yes, folks, it's in the Bible. And it's going to happen. They're trying to make it happen. They've tried to get it going because any death is good in the devil and the devil's children's eyes. Now, I'm going to give you a profound axiom from one of my pastors. Oh, I'd love to be able to talk to Jerry again today, but he's not doing well. And so he can't have a normal conversation anymore. I wish I'd been able to hang out with him more, but some of the people in the church, a woman in particular, decided to misbehave and drive me away. And I'm not hanging out where things are bad. She had a problem with men. She hated men. And that's the way it is with most women today. Yeah, if you're a woman listening to this, there's problems. And it's kind of biblical, and it's kind of familial. It's in the family. So you need to understand that things are not balanced very well. And you need to understand that you actually could play a big role in pulling this all together. I mean, you do want to save your children, don't you? Now, in the Dr. Kent show on there, I used a theme song, and that was the hook, the chorus, in the song Monster by Steppenwolf. It was America, America, don't you care about your sons and daughters? It was about the fact that America had become the beast system. We didn't start out that way, but that's what we are today. We've been taken over within by the bad guys, by the evil ones. They own us lock, stock, and barrel, and I do mean that quite literally. Now, they stole it all. They stole it all with their phony money and their money magic. Our founders gave us honest money, real wealth that could be preserved and saved, that could not be debased. It couldn't be inflated away. Inflation is just another name for theft. But our founders gave us a proper republic, and within 7 years, we had lost quite a bit of it. And by the time the War of 1812 came along, the entire foundation was pretty much knocked out from underneath us, and it's been downhill since then. If I was president, I think I could restore it. You want to put me in office? Fine. I'm not as old as the guy that's in there, and I'm not as old as Trump. I don't think I'm strong enough. I don't think I'm great enough. I don't think I got enough firepower in me to do it. I do have a friend who would make such a wonderful vice president. I would gladly pass the mantle on to him. Now, why would he make a wonderful vice president? That's the position he wants. He actually ran for it already. I didn't even know it. I hadn't talked to him in years, and recently I talked with him and found this out. And he told me that he was tapped to run for vice president. And as vice president, he was going to bring this country around. And he explained to me how really it was only through the position of the vice president that it could happen. Oh my God, Dave, I'd love you to be vice president. I know you'd do a good job, and if I was screwing up, you'd walk in the office and kick my ass privately, hopefully, just between us, and straighten me out so I'd run right, make the country run right. But I'll tell you, we need a president who knows Yahway. who gets down on his knees and prays. Now, might that man be Donald John Trump? It's possible. But I have a few things against him, and he certainly isn't Yahweh. Well, he's Yahweh's chosen, I believe. I believe that he is. But he's not Yahweh's man. He doesn't know Yahweh. He hasn't read the Bible. He doesn't pray to Yahweh. That's what it's going to take to save this nation. Do I mind if he becomes president? Yes, in a certain sense I mind, because he let us down. He let us down in several ways. And you folks go on worshiping him. But I'm going to tell you, the number one problem, from my perspective, was 5G. He deployed a weapon system that makes nuclear weapons obsolete. That's the number one mistake, in my opinion. We shouldn't have 5G. They don't have it in Israel. That little postage stamp of a country for a reason, good reason. It's not allowed in several other countries for good reason. And we put it in our schools during the COVID lockdown. So he deployed their weapon. Did he do it knowingly, willingly? I think he might have. I don't know. So Donald Trump, if you're out there listening to me, did you do that knowing it was a weapon system? And by the way, the battery is ongoing. It needs to be shut down. Number 2, warp speed, which was a fraud, in my opinion. Everything had been developed years ago, probably 5 years earlier or more. And he lies to the American people and authorizes this thing, acts like it's his baby, and it's done. It's done a lot. Now, you stupid asses out there will not wake up, and more of you are going to have to die. Read the Bible. There's 2 kill-offs in the Bible, real massive kill-offs coming. The first one is 1/3 of the Earth's population. And the second one, from my reading, is again another 1/3 of the Earth's population. Now, that doesn't add up as 2/3, 1/3, then 1/3. It's 1/3 of what we have today, and then we end up with a 2/3 amount, and then it's 1/3 of that. And I've done the math. My calculations, it means 48%. That's what's written in the Bible. Is it written in stone? We shall see. Most of you will see. I don't know if I'm going to live through all of that. Now, you've got another problem. Oh, there's other problems with Donald Trump. Let me stay on that for a little bit more. Number 3. I really expected more out of Donald Trump, and he let me down. I expected him to tell the American people the truth about the money system, and the truth about the fraud, the truth about the theft, and restore constitutional currency. And he failed to do it. And I know that while he was president, especially now we look back and think we had it so good, it wasn't any better than living in Egypt. He didn't fix things. It wasn't that good. But certainly it wasn't as bad as it is today, as it is now, and it's going to get worse. I got another thing against him. He promised the Kennedy assassination records and reneged. Unforgivable. Why did he not release it? The CIA convinced him because it would have undermined the whole government. Well, what the hell? You like this government the way it is? Don't you think it could use a little undermining? Don't you think it would be nice if the people woke up and restored the republic? That's what I expected out of Donald John Trump, was to restore the republic. He didn't do that either. He didn't even tell you that it was missing, that it was gone. And then he promised us several things in the Second Amendment community, in the 2A community. In the 2A community, we were expecting more freedoms. We were expecting the Hearing Protection Act so that we could protect our hearing. I've lost a lot of my hearing, and it was due to my ears not being protected when I was a little boy shooting 22s when I was getting trained. In every civilized nation in Europe, you have to hunt with a suppressor because they don't want to be bothered with the loud report in the woods. And I like the idea. But he also took away bump stocks. I don't give a shit about bump stocks. It's a gimmick. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, by the way, we should have the Hughes Amendment going away, and we should have selectable fire because we had full auto when the nation was founded. We had several guns that were legal. They weren't mainstream like a flintlock was. My God, the British hated the flintlock. Man, that's a nasty weapon. That does a lot of damage. Actually, it probably does more damage than these tiny bullets we shoot out of these modern guns today. A lot more damage. The British hated those things. And of course, we loved them. And just as an example of his failure, Donald John Trump's failure as president, he failed when it came to Las Vegas. There was no investigation of the crimes that were committed in Las Vegas. Your FBI doesn't investigate crimes. They cover things up and they lie to you. They cover up the crimes of the elite. They're nothing more than basically babysitters for congressmen and senators. When one of them gets in trouble, they come in and clean things up so things can be hidden from the American people. We didn't need an FBI, and we'd be better off without an FBI. The FBI was founded in the same year as the Federal Reserve in 1913, a very bad year for the United States of America. By the way, there was another organization that began in 1913, besides the Federal Reserve and the predecessor to what became the FBI. The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. Isn't it marvelous how they call themselves the Anti-Defamation League, yet their one weapon is defaming other people? So we can't even talk about the truth, about historic truth? We can't talk about the Holocaust? There's been a bunch of Holocausts, folks, real ones. But yet we're sold this rotten one that I don't think it happened. What do you think? You can put it in the comments. I don't think it happened. Why? Because the memoirs of the great men at the time never mentioned it. There's more to it than that. Fuel was really, really scarce at that point. It was dear. They didn't have extra fuel to run incinerators night and day. That's a bunch of hokey pokey. But they did firebomb Dresden, and they did haul the corpses from Dresden to what became known as the concentration camps. Yes, boys and girls, it was a fraud. Army intelligence ordered a fellow who lived in Elkhart, Indiana, a warrant officer in Army intelligence, to take a flatbed train to Dresden in East Germany and load up the bodies. And they hauled them to those concentration camps and unloaded the bodies. And they took a picture of that fellow kneeling down before these stacks of corpses. And they put it on, I think it was Life magazine, maybe it was Time. They featured it on the cover. And there he was. And he got angry because he knew it was a fraud. And he told them to take that down and retract it because it wasn't the truth. He had put those bodies there. They were from the firebombing in Dresden, in which the Allies bombed that place for probably a solid week. Who knows how long the fires burned? Even the pavement caught on fire. 400,000 people incinerated, mostly old men, old women, children. Not a military target at all. Okay. I know you're going to have a lot of questions for me. Put them down in the comments. I'll try to stay up with them. I'm not that tech savvy, not anymore. I don't care to be tech savvy. I like to sit and read the Bible. I like to pump iron. I like to exercise. I love talking with people. And there's nothing more that I like to talk about than the truth that's in the Bible. There's a lot in there. And there's a lot of misconceptions, especially among the big box churches, churchianity, I like to call them. I look down upon them. I'm sorry, folks, but they preach a bunch of lies. We were even told, Isaiah even wrote about the lying pastors. They didn't even have pastors during Isaiah's time. They had priests. That's one of the words I want to look up someday and understand. How the heck did Isaiah come up with pastors? Or whatever the word he had, it became pastors. So, folks, you want out of this mess? Repent. Live by the 10 Commandments. Learn them. Do your best to live by them. Pray to Yahweh under all circumstances to guide you, that you might do his will. Jesus Christ, that's what you call him. I call him Yeshua. Yeshua the Messiah. And that's spelled with an A, not an E. Yeshua is the Jewish version. Yeshua is the Israelite version. An Israeli is not an Israelite. They could be, but most Israelis are not descendants of Israel the man. Most of them are descendants of the bad guy that killed his brother in the book of Genesis, Cain, who killed his half-brother, Abel. You didn't know that. You know it now. In case you're wondering, Cain and Abel didn't have the same father. They had different fathers, but they had the same mother. Eve was the mother to each of those boys. Cain was fathered by Gadriel. Gadreel. Gadriel. The short nickname is Gad, from which we get the word God. Yeah, it goes pretty deep, doesn't it? I mean, the deception goes deep. I'm not talking psychobabble. I'm talking about reality here, folks. I'm not talking, I'm not guessing much. Not much. I'm knowing. You need to read that Bible too. The Bible speaks to each man differently. Not a lot differently, but differently. And when we talk to each other and compare notes, we sharpen each other. And we learn from each other. And we grow and we improve. And I'm going to tell you right now that we are supposed to establish heaven upon this earth. It's not supposed to be up in the air. It's supposed to be on this earth. We're supposed to prevail. You and I, we were given what it takes to prevail. And so my job is either to live through the coming catastrophes and tell the youngsters what happened to them, or to get you off your ass so you're reading the Bible and you might be spared. You might survive through this coming catastrophe. I don't even want to get into it. It's a whole other subject. But the big problem is that we found Sodom and Gomorrah. It's more than a decade ago. We found it, and it was north of the Dead Sea. It's not in the Dead Sea. It's not south of the Dead Sea. It was the biggest hill in the area, biggest mound in the area. Nice, even mound. The biggest tell. City upon city was buried there. And when they got down, all the way down to the layer of destruction, The bodies were oriented in one direction, away from the center of the blast. Most of them had broken bones, even broken finger bones. I mean, it was bad. And when the crew got down to the layer of excavation, they went silent. It was that horrible. And they documented it as if it was a murder site, a war crime site. And then, among all that stuff, they found a crystal, a particular crystal rock. They took that crystal rock. They took it over to New Mexico. What's that lab? Sandia Labs? They took it to the lab in Mexico. And they asked them, what is this? To which the people in the laboratory, being familiar with that crystal, that type of crystal, demanded to know, where did you get this thing? Why did they demand to know? Because that crystal was only found at nuclear test sites. God used nukes, hellfire and brimstone. And we have a war written about by the prophets, the major prophets, in which it talks about sacrificial fire. Folks, it's coming. And it even talks about us today being worse than Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighbors. So look at yourself. Look at our nation. What's it look like to you? Is this not Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0? Is this not another version? It's the epitome of absolute trash. Oh, and you're told to have pride in it and to worship it and to be tolerant of it. Yahweh doesn't preach tolerance. Have you abided by those 10 commandments? Is this government abiding by the 10 commandments? Hell no. It's sad. But you need to read the Bible. And I may have a task in front of me. I've got to talk with this publisher because I need to get a couple of books out there to you that explain things even in greater detail. But I'm going to tell you right now, we removed 14 books from the Bible between the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Protestants saw fit to do that. The Catholics still have it in their Bible. 1 Esdras and 2 Esdras. Same prophet Ezra. It's in the Bible itself. Ezra and Nehemiah rebuilt Israel. They went back after the 70-day Sabbaths that were celebrated, if you will. The land remained dormant and got caught up on its Sabbaths in 70 years. They went back and built the temple. So there's 2 more books of Ezra and the Apocrypha. And those books are important. And in the second book, 2 Esdras, chapter 11, you will find the eagle mentioned. I dare say that represents what the United States of America has become today. You know, we were told the United States of America is not in the Bible. That's not true. We were actually mentioned in the book of Genesis by Israel himself when his sons gathered together. There were 2 different events in the Bible, one in which Israel talks about their characters and the symbolism for them, which became part of the heraldry for the countries that they subsequently became in Europe and the rest of the world. And the other was the blessings. And he said between the 2 boys he had adopted from Joseph, his son, his 2 grandsons, Ephraim and Manasseh, that one of them would become a company of nations, and the other would become the great nation. That I believe, refers to America. I got some brothers that we argue about which one's Great Britain, which one's America. Great Britain's no good either today, in case you're wondering. They're our greatest enemy. I think that between Israel and the royal family in Great Britain, it's kind of a toss-up as to which one is more dangerous to us, which one's our greater enemy. I know you think that we're all allies. No, no. That's part of the grand deception. Remember, the world is deceived. If you read the Bible, I promise you, you will be less deceived. The deception will slowly lift off your eyes as you love truth and justice, and it will grow. The Bible to me speaks to me, and it has a command in there: love truth and justice. I deduced that when I read my original NIV study Bible published in 1983. It says, love, truth, and justice. Why truth? And truth is first. Why truth? Because without truth, you can't administer justice. So we don't have any justice here in this nation today. We have to get it back for the sake of the world. How can we do that? Well, I'm not recommending a rebellion. I'm recommending you get on your knees and pray to Yahweh and do the will of Heavenly Father. After all, that's what his son Yahshua did. That's the example he set. He said he did nothing but the will of his Father. That's the example he set for you and me. I'm not doing too good on it, I'll admit it. I'm doing better than I used to do. I hope I'll do better yet. Yes, this channel is the one on psychology. Psychology means the study of the soul. And so basically, I'm trained to understand the philosophies undergirding my discipline. I think it's time we had a reality check before they succeed in genociding us all. Can we change things? Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I think we can. I hope we can. But I just don't know. I see that this is the end of an earth age, and I see that the evil ones are doing their best to exterminate as many as they can. That's because they've been here for quite a while. From what I can discern, they've been here for a long time. And they've been through previous earth ages before, so they know what's coming. And they want to put the rest of us down like sick, miserable dogs so that they can prevail when the earth is reborn. I think Yahweh has a surprise coming for them. What I advocate for is not rebellion. Yahweh does not bless rebellion. What I advocate is you just establish proper governments and ignore this illegal, illicit, unconstitutional system, this beast system that has taken over America today. You need to do this at the county level. Thomas Jefferson told us how to restore the republic once lost, and it was written based upon principles of Moses in the Bible. Jefferson wrote his own Bible, but it wasn't because he was a deist, if you will. It wasn't because he didn't believe. He wanted to see what happened if he removed all of the miracles, to see if Yahshua, Jesus, as you call him, was still a good guy. And what he discovered when he removed the miracles is, yeah, he's got credibility and he makes it even without the miracles. I'd love to get a hold of a copy of that Bible. Well, that Bible itself, and look at that someday. That would be wonderful. I'd love to be an advisor to the president. I really don't think I want to be president of this country. When I was a little boy, which I guess was most of my life as I look back on it now, because I don't feel like I started growing up until I hit my 50s. I wanted to be president. I was going to become an attorney, which I never did become, and it disappointed my parents, and they never ceased letting me know how disappointed they were. And I wish in many ways I had followed my father's advice to go in and become an accountant and then become an attorney. Certainly I would have been much more wealthy. I'd been better off. But that wasn't my lot in life. I believe my purpose was to suffer and to turn to the Bible, which I did rather late in life, and to read it, to come to an understanding, and to be able to introduce you to this new version of the Bible, which in my estimation is the biggest breakthrough since 1611. And I got another thing to tell you. The Kent family has had a major place in history, and I would love for somebody over there in Great Britain to do the research, because you've got the libraries available, you have the documents, the original documents available, and I'm not going to travel anymore, I don't think. And I'd love you to do the discovery, because I can't do it. My uncle, the oldest Kent ever in history, is alive, and he has the genealogy, and we've gone back in history, but we're just shy of 1 or 2 generations for answering this question. And that is the name of the Kent who was father to Sir Francis Bacon, whose mother was Queen Elizabeth. Now, she had 2 sons by this same man, 2 boys. And I've told stories in my other videos about that. But Sir Francis Bacon wrote the Shakespearean plays, and once he was done with that, he produced oversaw the production of the 1611 King James Bible. And I know a lot of you worship that Bible, and it's a nice version of the Bible. I've spent a lot of time in it, probably most of my time in that. But it's a better Bible available today, and you do want to know Yahweh's name. You want to know Yahweh's name, Yahshua's name as well. You want to be able to call upon him. It's time to call upon the name of Yahweh, just like happened in Genesis. That ends one of the chapters. It was at that time that men began to call upon the name of Yahweh. Folks, you want to save your nation? Pray. Read the Bible. Abide by the 10 Commandments and all the other ordinances that are in there as best you can. All right. I've cleaned up my phone. I've gotten rid of the old videos. We're going to start producing a regular Dr. John Taylor Kent, Dr. Kent show. So this, you might as well consider the first one. And I'm going to try to give you an hour every day. And I know it's asking a lot from you. But share this video. Give it the thumbs up, like it. If you don't like it, that actually helps the algorithm. And my feelings would be a little hurt. I'm an agreeable fellow. Over and out.